David Shephard again. Guess what? I just did an absolutely fantastic 20-minute Facebook Live. Except it didn't go anywhere. So I presented to the two people in the office here. Sally, can you keep looking at that to make sure the counter's still saying live?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good. Anyway, I'm David Shephard. I'm sorry that this is around about 25 minutes late. And this is our everything you've ever wanted to know about NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and Huna, but we're afraid to ask. Obviously, I haven't added to that everything you've ever wanted to know about being able to do Facebook Live for obvious reasons. So here we are. If you were here last week, then welcome back. If this is your first week, let me just give you a little bit of information about what this Facebook Live is about. Every week, Thursday, 7 p.m. GMT, I'm going to do a Facebook Live titled Everything You've Ever Wanted to Know About NLP, Hypnosis, Timeline Therapy, and Huna, but we're afraid to ask. And last week I talked about why I don't just teach NLP, why I also integrate that with hypnosis and timeline therapy and Huna. And I said I was going to talk for about 10 minutes. Well, I talked for around about 30 minutes. I see Claire Hegarty is actually here, Emma France, Peter Joseph, David Wise. Brilliant to see you guys. And I asked for questions. What question do you want to have answered by me? And Emma France, actually, who's just come on the call, sent me a question saying that she is coaching. Emma's a channel swimmer, and she's coaching aspiring channel swimmers around actually doing that. And she said, swimming the channel is 80% psychological, 20% skill. And she said, and they haven't got the psychology. Is there a way that I can enable them to get the psychology? So this is a technique I'm going to share with you because I thought, what a great question, not only for things that Emma will be able to do with her coachees, but also being in an optimum state is vital for us to be able to do any kind of performance, whether it be an athletic performance, whether it be a presentation, whether it be a musical performance. My friend Greg Secker quite often says that success in trading is 90% psychology, 10% trading. So how do we achieve this kind of state? And I'd actually worked with a client, Andy Mounsey. If you look at on the listing below the comment that I put up on Facebook, Andy actually contributed. And Andy also quite rightly says, it's not just having the psychology isn't enough. You've got to practice. You've got to actually do the real thing. He quite rightly says, if you're going to swim the channel, don't practice in a lake. Swim in the sea. Now, Andy was doing that. And the reason why he was doing it is because his goal was to get the world record for the arch to arc triathlon. That is, running from Marble Arch to Dover, swimming from Dover to Calais, and then cycling from Calais to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. And he said, I've pretty much got the run down, I've got the cycle down, I am training with the Royal Marines, swimming in Plymouth Docks, I believe it was at that particular point in time. It was quite a while ago when I worked with Andy. He said, but I've got a state issue with the swim. And he explained to me why. He said there's a certain point when you swim in the channel, depending on the swell, the size of the waves, there's a point where you can't see Dover and you can't see Calais yet. And theoretically, you could be swimming as hard as you possibly can. But because of the current in the channel, you might actually be going backwards. And he said, and then you come out of state, you come out of the flow, your mind starts kicking in, all of those kind of things. That was causing him a problem. And he said, can you help me? Because he'd been referred from a friend of mine, another student of mine. And I said, yes, we can. Now, here you'll see I've got a flip chart already prepared because these were the ones I did for the Facebook Live that didn't actually go anywhere. Yeah. So is that Marina? Oh, cool. Yeah. So there are two ways. You know, the thing in NLP is that we change our state by changing our physiology. And so we've got this thing about changing the way we stand, changing the way we sit, changing the way we move, changing the way we breathe. But in this particular technique, we change our physiology in a very slight way. What we do is we change the way that we use our vision. And there's two ways we can use our vision. We can be in foveal vision, where we focus in on one thing, which to a certain extent might be what you're doing right now, focusing in on your computer screen, or your phone, or your tablet. And the other way of using our eyesight is to focus on the periphery, to open up our awareness, both horizontally and vertically. And this seems to act like a switch in the nervous system. When we're in foveal vision, then we're in sympathetic nervous arousal, which is the stress response. When we're stressed, my Auntie Jenny's on the video. Hi, Jenny. Then we're in stress, and we focus in on the one thing that's causing us to be stressed. Our nervous system is operating in sympathetic nervous arousal. When we're in peripheral vision, then we literally switch our nervous system over to operate in parasympathetic nervous arousal. Hi, Gavin, good to see you. And the relaxation response. And it literally goes from this to this. Now, the important thing here is this state here, we call the relaxation response, and though it's what athletes would call the zone, it's what performers would call being in the flow. And many times I've heard athletes say, sometimes I'm in the zone, sometimes I'm not. I've heard performers say, sometimes I'm in the flow, sometimes I'm not. And they think it's a chance thing. Whereas when we've learned this, we can predictably put ourselves into the zone, predictably put ourselves into the flow whenever we want to. There's an important thing in that, you know, because it's not about the skill. I've seen very, very skilled, very able speakers and presenters, for instance, that come out of the flow, go into foveal vision, go into the stress response. They forget what they're going to say and their entire presentation falls apart. And I know that they can do really well. It's just because of their state. So we've actually been teaching this today because we've been doing our Fix My Mind Elite training. And this is one of the key interventions that we use in the Fix My Mind interventions, particularly for anxiety. It's a great thing for anxiety. That was my business partner, James Morrison, sitting over in the wings, sneezing there just so that he could take part in the Facebook Live. Likes to be the centre of everything, so that's the but this isn't something new. James Braid, in his book Neurohypnology, talks about this. Neurohypnology, by the way, it was James Braid who came up with the term hypnosis. Before he called it hypnosis, though, this trance-like state that he discovered, he called neurohypnology. And I'm really pleased that he decided to change the name of it, because if he hadn't, I would have to introduce myself as a master trainer of neurohypnology rather than a master trainer of hypnosis. So we can trace this back to the 1800s, but we can trace it back even further than that, because in Huna, ancient Hawaiian Huna, the state is called hakalau, a state of open awareness. And this was taken as being the highly revered waking trance state of the kahuna. The kahuna was always known as being calm, balanced, and centered, no matter what was happening around them. So if we link this particular state, which we could take as a hypnotic state, we could also take it as a meditation state, as in a waking meditation rather than a sleeping meditation, and combine it with the NLP technique of anchoring, then we have some really powerful techniques for enabling us to have emotional choice in our life and enabling us to reliably and predictably go into the zone, the flow, or relaxation. So with anchoring, if you've heard of Pavlov's dogs, then you'll know that Pavlov gave the dog a steak, the dog salivated, and he rang a tuning fork. Bing. And he did that a number of times. Then what he did was he rang the tuning fork but didn't give the dog a steak, and the dog started to salivate. It created an association between the state of salivation and the sound of the tuning fork. Out of all of that, he created behavioral psychology. In anchoring, we actually use the same process because, you know, we've got a nervous system just like a dog. We're exactly the same. We create anchors, we create associations too. So if we can create a link, an association between something and this state here of hakalau, or this state of heightened awareness, or this state of peripheral vision, then we can fire it off reliably whenever we want. So let's actually do that now. So what I want you to do, wherever you are, is just to find the spot above eye level that you can look at comfortably. And as you look at that spot for a while, begin to move more and more of your attention into the periphery. See if you can open it up all the way to 180 degrees so you're aware of what's happening on either side. Also, you can open it up vertically so you can see what's happening above you and below and in front of you. And I can see that some of you have stopped blinking. So, it's okay to blink when you're in peripheral vision. It just makes your eyes work a little bit better that way. Now, also relax your jaw. You know, as if you're watching an episode of EastEnders. It's also a good way to get a seat on the tube. So if you're on the tube right now, that's a good way of getting a seat. And you'll notice that you begin to breathe more deeply and slowly, and you start to feel more relaxed. So just come out of that state for a second, focusing on something. And let's just practice going to, again, find that spot above eye level that you can look at. Open up your awareness, horizontally and vertically. Relax your jaw, and again, notice that you begin to feel more relaxed. Now, when you're in that state, pick something that you want your nervous system and your unconscious mind to associate with this particular state. Maybe it's clicking your fingers. Maybe it's squeezing the knuckle on your little finger. Maybe it's doing this. Yeah? Something unique that you can associate it to. So actually do that now. When you're in the peripheral vision state, fire off your anchor. Great. Now, come out of peripheral vision, focus in on your little toe, something like this. Then, look at that spot above eye level again. Open your awareness out into the periphery, both horizontally and vertically. Relax your jaw, and again, notice your breathing slow down, and you begin to feel more relaxed. When you feel that state really come in, fire off your trigger again, whatever it may be. Great, and then break that state again. Focus in on the screen, if you like, of your phone or your tablet or your computer. Now, once again, put your awareness above eye level. Expand your awareness horizontally and vertically. Relax your jaw. Notice that your breathing begins to slow down. You begin to feel more relaxed. And fire off your trigger again, whatever it may be that you want to get associated with that. Fantastic. Now, let's test it. So what I want you to do is completely come out of that state. Just shake it off. Completely come out of the state. Now, doing nothing, just fire off your trigger. Whichever one you picked. And notice that you immediately go into the peripheral vision state. Your jaw relaxes automatically, you feel relaxed, and your breathing slows down. Now, if that isn't intense enough for you yet, all you need to do is to reassociate it more times. And the more times you do that, and link it into that particular trigger, the better it will become. Now, I know that seems like a really, really simple technique, and there's a reason for that. It is. And that doesn't mean that it's not powerful. As I say, it's an integral part of a lot of the interventions we do in Fix My Mind, particularly around anxiety. And literally, people come in with anxiety, even anxiety attacks, and the state just disappears really, really quickly in a matter of like maybe 5-10 minutes, and they're blown away. They can't believe it. Let me give you a couple of examples. So, I told you about Andy. Obviously, I wasn't going to do this with Andy because I wasn't going to swim the channel with him. Yeah? So it needed to be something he could fire off for himself, and he chose this one because he knew he'd be able to do that whilst he was swimming. Now, unfortunately, Andy didn't get the world record. That was because of the way the world record was actually established in the first place. He did a faster run, he did a faster swim, and he did a faster cycle. Unfortunately, when he got to Dover, he couldn't swim for 2 days because of the conditions in the channel, and the way the record was originally set up was because of the total elapsed time. My very good friend Frederick Carlson, also a friend of mine you'll find on Facebook. Frederick composed. Sue Warren is there watching from New Zealand. That's great. Hi Sue, that's brilliant. I love the fact that we can do worldwide from here in Twickenham. Frederick composed all of the music on all of my products. He composed them and also played them. Just whilst I remember, if you like that kind of music, it's kind of like chill out, smooth jazz kind of thing, go to the iTunes store and look for iChill. Because Frederick's put an app out, it's a subscription app, just a matter of pounds per month, and you've got his entire catalogue of music available and new music coming out all the time. That's iChill, Frederick Carlson. Leon Taylor, yes, our Olympian highboard tandem diver is also on our Facebook Live here, though he's only just down the road in Richmond rather than New Zealand. And Frederick's a phenomenal guitarist. I think he's one of the best guitarists in the world. And he was he was the highest paid session guitarist in London because of how good he was. Now, he hadn't performed live for a long time, and he said, David, I've been asked to perform live at Jean Leurs up in Camden at that point in time, up in North London. Do you want to come and see? I went like, definitely, I'd love that. The gig started, Frederick comes out on the stage, starts playing, and it was dreadful. I'm going, what's happened to Frederick? You know, because I knew how well he could play, and he just wasn't playing well. And I'm thinking, oh no. And about 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds in, suddenly, click, there was the Frederick that I knew and loved. And at the end of the gig, you know, we had a few drinks afterwards, and I went, mate, you know, what happened to the beginning of that? I said, you know, I don't like saying it, but I could play better than that, you know, not really, but he was still way better than me. And he goes, I know. He said it was as if my fingers were mine. He said, I knew I wasn't playing well, but you know, I didn't know what was going on. But he said, then I remembered neurodrivers. I remembered peripheral vision you taught in Master Practitioner. I wasn't in the flow. I wasn't in the zone. I was in foveal vision. I put myself into peripheral vision. My fingers were mine, and the music just flowed out of me. Great. Fantastic. I was working with managing director of a company, very, very successful lady, and I was doing a training for her team that particular day, and at the end of the day she said, do you mind just staying behind a little while, because I'd like to talk to you. I said, sure. And she said, look, I've got a problem. I do a lot of presentations. I'm a good presenter. She said, and I'm very comfortable. I'm very, very confident with it, except if I'm presenting to a room full of lawyers and or barristers. She said, first thing tomorrow morning, I've got a presentation to 40 lawyers and barristers. And already I'm scared. And she put her hands out and I could see them shaking like this. Can you help me? And you know, it's at the end of the day, it's a long day of training, and I haven't got time to do timeline therapy, I haven't got time to do like collapse anchors or swish patterns or anything like that. So I thought, what can I do to help this lady? And I thought, neurodrivers. So I did exactly as I've done with you. Put her into peripheral vision and anchored it. Did it several times, tested it, brought her out of the state, fired this immediately, boom. Saw the face relax, saw her eyes go into peripheral vision, saw her breathing go down. So I said, okay, think about your presentation tomorrow morning, presenting to a room full of 40 lawyers and barristers. Immediately I saw her physiology change and she went into the fear. When I saw the fear come up, I fired off the peripheral vision anchor. And you could see the fear just drain away and melt away in her physiology. I conditioned it a number of times, and then I said to her, okay, think about your presentation tomorrow morning. Without me doing anything, immediately peripheral vision, smooth face, calm breathing, totally relaxed. Now, that's great when the person's just thinking about it, but it has to work in the real world when you're actually in front of that audience. That's the most important thing, obviously. By lunchtime the next day, I got a message saying, I absolutely nailed it. 40 lawyers, barristers, confident, calm, centered, nailed it. Fantastic. It's a simple technique, but it works absolutely brilliantly. With the latest research that's coming out around neurocardiology and neuroscience, This state is now called coherence, where the brain, the neurology in the brain, in the heart and the brain are in coherence. They're operating in synchronization. And this is now taken as being an optimum performance state in anything that we do. It enables us to do whatever we can do at the absolute best level. And with NLP, with a little bit of Huna and a little bit of hypnosis, then we can enable ourselves to do this really quickly and really fast, and reliably and predictably. So I hope this has been useful for you today. If you've got any questions about the technique, then just add your questions in the comments below the actual video. The video will actually go up and stay on the wall after it's live. So if you're watching this after it's already gone live, then hi. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. We had 1,300 views of the video last week, so that was really great. Thank you for all your support as far as that's concerned. We will be here next week, 7 o'clock this time, next week, 7 o'clock GMT, on Facebook Live. Everything you've ever wanted to know about NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and Huna, but we're afraid to ask. And I want questions. So what are your questions? Either put them down at the bottom of below this video, or PM them to me. And my aim is to be able to answer as many of those questions in our 15-20 minute Facebook Live broadcast, which will be next week, 7 o'clock GMT, here on my personal profile on Facebook. Thanks for joining us this evening, and I'll see you again next week.